The espresso machine hissed like a snake at 11:47 p.m., and I was elbow deep in its chrome guts when I heard my wife's laughter drifting from the living room. Not the polite tinkle she reserved for dinner parties or client meetings, but that genuine, throaty sound she used to make when we first met, the sound that used to be mine. I'm Gideon Hale, 36 years old, corporate lawyer at Henderson & Associates, and apparently the star of my own Greek tragedy. Nobody sent me the script. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Oh my God, Serena, you should see his face when he brings me coffee in the morning. Marisol's voice carried through our downtown condo like poison in expensive perfume, like a kicked puppy hoping for a pat on the head. The wrench slipped in my hand, scraping knuckles against metal. I froze, listening. He still thinks we're working late at the agency, came Serena Tran's voice through the FaceTime speaker. Serena, my wife's business partner and best friend since college. The fixer, the one who always knew exactly what to say to make any problem disappear. What's the plan for tomorrow night? Raphael's taking me to that new rooftop place downtown. You know, the one with the infinity pool? He's going to finally tell me he loves me. Marisol's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. And the best part? Gideon's paying for it. His credit card, his reservation, his humiliation. Rafael Ortega, 37, tech startup CEO, the kind of guy who wore $1,000 sneakers and called everyone bro while stealing their wives. You're evil, Serena laughed. I love it. What if he finds out? Please, Gideon's too busy playing corporate warrior to notice his own wife is bored to tears. Besides, what's he going to do? File a motion for emotional damages? They both dissolved into giggles. I stood there in my kitchen, holding a wrench like a weapon, while my marriage crumbled around me in real time. The espresso machine could wait. I had research to do. 3 weeks later, I had enough evidence to bury them all. Not legally, I'm a lawyer, not a miracle worker, but socially, financially, and professionally. In today's world, that's often worse than prison. My office at Henderson & Associates occupied the 32nd floor of downtown's gleaming Meridian Tower. Glass, steel, and the kind of ambient lighting that made everyone look either powerful or lifeless. I preferred powerful. Bobby, I need you to dig deeper on the Ortega Tech accounts, I told my junior associate, sliding a manila folder across my mahogany desk. Bobby Dre, 29, sharp as a scalpel and twice as cutting. She'd been working under me for 2 years, and I trusted her more than my own family, which, given recent developments, wasn't saying much. What am I looking for? She opened the folder, scanning the financial documents I'd compiled. Irregularities, creative accounting, the kind of stuff that makes investors nervous and regulators curious. I leaned back in my leather chair, watching the city sprawl below us. Rafael Ortega likes to live large. I want to know where the money's really coming from. Bobby's eyes narrowed. She was good at reading between the lines. This wouldn't have anything to do with the rumors about your wife, and my wife's personal life is her own business, I cut her off smoothly. This is purely professional curiosity about a potential client's financial stability. She nodded, understanding the game. I'll have something by Friday. That evening, I stopped by Mickey's boxing gym on the south side. The place smelled like sweat, leather, and broken dreams. My kind of therapy. Coach Biggs, 60-something ex-detective with hands like concrete blocks, was wrapping tape around a heavy bag when I walked in. You look like hell, counselor, he grunted, not looking up from his work. Feel worse. I started wrapping my hands, the ritual as familiar as breathing. Got a hypothetical question for you, coach. Shoot. Say a man discovers his wife is cheating. Say she's not just cheating, but actively humiliating him, making him pay for her dates with another man. What would you do? Biggs straightened up, studying my face with those cop eyes that missed nothing. Hypothetically? Hypothetically. Well, hypothetically, I'd make sure the punishment fit the crime. Your wife wants to play games with your reputation? Play better games with hers. He tossed me a pair of boxing gloves. But first, I'd work out some of that rage before it turned me into someone I didn't recognize. Smart man. I spent the next hour beating the hell out of that heavy bag, imagining it was Raphael's smug face. Friday night, Marisol announced she was going to a launch party for some new influencer brand. She spent 2 hours getting ready, trying on 3 different outfits before settling on a black dress that cost more than most people's rent. Don't wait up, she said, kissing my cheek with lips that tasted like lies and expensive lipstick. These things always run late. Have fun, I replied, already reaching for my jacket. The Skyline Lounge occupied the top floor of the Millennium Hotel, all glass walls and pretentious lighting. I arrived 30 minutes after Marisol, wearing a baseball cap and keeping to the shadows near the bar. The place was packed with the usual crowd of influencers, startup bros, and social media parasites. I spotted Marisol immediately. She was holding court near the infinity pool, champagne flute in hand, laughing at something Raphael was whispering in her ear. He had his arm around her waist like he owned her. Maybe he did. Serena stood nearby, phone in hand, documenting every moment for posterity or blackmail. With Serena, it was hard to tell the difference. "You know," Raphael said loudly enough for half the party to hear, "some guys just don't know how to keep their women satisfied. They get comfortable, stop trying. That's when a real man steps in." Marisol giggled, pressing closer to him. "Some men are just adequate, in every way." The crowd laughed. My wife was publicly mocking our private life, our marriage, our entire relationship, while I watched from the shadows like a ghost at my own funeral. But I wasn't gone yet. I waited until they were distracted, then moved through the crowd toward their table. Marisol's purse sat unattended, her phone charging beside an untouched champagne flute. I slipped my wedding ring off my finger, the platinum band she'd chosen, that I'd worn for 8 years, and twisted it around the stem of her glass. Let her explain that to her new boyfriend. I was halfway to the exit when my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Your husband's here." I looked back to see one of Marisol's friends pointing in my direction, phone in hand. Marisol's face went white when she saw the ring on her glass. Our eyes met across the crowded room. I smiled, tipped my cap, and walked out into the night. The next morning, Marisol pretended nothing had happened. She made coffee, hummed while getting dressed for work, and kissed my cheek goodbye like the perfect wife. The only sign of distress was the slight tremor in her hands when she thought I wasn't looking. I let her stew for 3 days before making my next move. Bobby knocked on my office door Tuesday afternoon, folder in hand and satisfaction in her eyes. "You're going to love this," she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "Rafael Ortega is living on borrowed time and other people's money. His startup burned through $2 million in Series A funding in 6 months. The books are clean, technically, but barely. He's been using company funds for personal expenses, restaurants, hotels, jewelry purchases. Nothing criminal, but enough to make investors very unhappy." Interesting. I flipped through the documents she'd compiled. What about his personal finances? Leverage to the eyeballs, the fancy condo, rented, the Tesla, leased. Even his watch collection is financed. He's living like a millionaire on a middle manager's actual net worth. Perfect. A fraud in an expensive suit, just like I'd suspected. "There's more," Bobby continued. "I did some digging on your wife's agency. They're hemorrhaging clients. 3 major accounts dropped them in the past month. Word is, Marisol's been distracted lately. Missing meetings, botching presentations. Her business partner's been covering for her, but barely. Serena, the loyal friend, cleaning up Marisol's messes while she played house with a fake millionaire. How touching. Bobby, I need you to make some calls. Quietly. Let it slip to the right people that Ortega Tech might not be the solid investment it appears to be. Nothing actionable, just concerns about their burn rate and management decisions." She grinned. "Consider it done." That night, I attended the monthly charity boxing match at the Meridian Center. Corporate types pretending to be tough guys for a good cause, while their wives sipped wine and gossiped in the VIP section. I'd signed up months ago, before my world imploded. My opponent was supposed to be Jim Crawford from the DA's office. Instead, I found Rafael Ortega lacing up gloves in the opposite corner. "Funny how these things work out," he said when he saw me, that trademark smirk plastered across his face. "Hope you don't mind if I borrowed your spot. Jim had to cancel, and I thought it might be educational." The referee called us to center ring. Standard charity match rules, 3 rounds, light contact, all for fun. Rafael had other plans. "Nothing personal, bro," he whispered during the referee's instructions. "Just want to show everyone what a real man looks like." The bell rang. Rafael came out swinging, throwing punches with more force than the rules allowed. He caught me with an elbow to the ribs that definitely wasn't accidental, then stepped back with his hands up, playing innocent. The crowd was eating it up. I could hear Marisol cheering from the VIP section. Second round, I decided to educate him. Coach Biggs had taught me that boxing was chess with violence. You set up your opponent, make them think they're winning, then destroy them with precision. Rafael was all aggression, no technique. He telegraphed every punch like a drunk teenager. I let him chase me around the ring for 30 seconds, then stepped inside his wild right hook and drove a perfectly legal uppercut into his solar plexus. He folded like a bad poker hand, gasping for air while the crowd went silent. "Nothing personal, bro," I whispered, helping him back to his feet, just showing everyone what real technique looks like. The referee raised my hand. The crowd exploded in applause. In the VIP section, Marisol looked like she'd seen a ghost. After the match, I was toweling off when Serena appeared beside me, phone in hand as always. "Nice fight," she said, but her eyes were calculating. "Rafael's pretty embarrassed. Marisol's not happy either." "It's just a charity match," I replied innocently. "All for a good cause." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You know, Gideon, some games are more dangerous than others. You might want to be careful which ones you choose to play." I looked at her directly for the first time in months. Really looked. Serena Tran, the fixer, the woman who solved everyone's problems and never seemed to have any of her own. The loyal best friend who always had a camera ready at the right moment. "Thanks for the advice," I said. "I'll keep that in mind." But I was already planning my next move. 2 weeks later, the cracks in their perfect affair were starting to show. Rafael's investors had gotten nervous and pulled their funding. His startup was hemorrhaging money and credibility. Marisol's agency lost another major client when she missed a crucial presentation because she was comforting her suddenly not-so-wealthy boyfriend. I watched it all unfold from my glass office, pulling strings like a conductor leading an orchestra of destruction. The breaking point came at Marisol's agency's annual gala, held at the Meridian Hotel's ballroom. Black tie, champagne, and enough fake smiles to power a small city. I arrived fashionably late, wearing my best tuxedo and a predator's grin. Marisol was working the room, trying to salvage her professional reputation while Rafael sulked at the bar. He'd lost weight, gained stress lines, and traded his designer suit for something off the rack. Poverty didn't suit him. I found Serena near the auction tables, supervising the event with military precision. She was the real power behind the agency, I realized. Marisol was the face, but Serena was the brain. "Lovely evening," I said, appearing beside her with 2 champagne flutes. She accepted the drink warily. "Gideon, I'm surprised to see you here. Wouldn't miss it. Marisol's worked so hard on this event, though I hear business has been challenging lately." "We're fine," she said quickly. Too quickly. "Of course you are. Still, it's interesting how quickly things can change. One day you're on top of the world, the next day your clients are questioning your judgment, your investors are nervous, and your carefully constructed life starts falling apart." Serena's grip tightened on her champagne flute. "What do you want, Gideon?" I reached into my jacket pocket and withdrew a small white envelope, sealed with wax. Old-fashioned, elegant, and ominous as hell. "I want to give my wife a present," I said, handing her the envelope. "Make sure she gets this tonight. After the speeches, but before the auction. Perfect timing is everything, don't you think?" Serena stared at the envelope like it might explode. "What's in it?" "Just some photographs, financial documents, text message screenshots, the kind of evidence that tells a story." I smiled, finishing my champagne. The story of how Marisol Vega destroyed her marriage, her business, and her reputation for a man who turned out to be broke. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Check Rafael's credit score lately? Ask him about the foreclosure notice he received yesterday, or better yet, ask Marisol about the photos I have of them at the Ritz-Carlton last month, the ones where she's paying for everything while he pretends to be a big shot." Serena's face went pale. "You bastard." "Probably, but I'm a bastard with evidence, connections, and nothing left to lose. That makes me very dangerous." I straightened my bow tie, preparing to leave. "Give her the envelope, Serena, or I'll give it to someone else. Maybe that gossip blogger who's been sniffing around your agency. What's her name? Ashley something? She'd love this story." I walked away, leaving Serena holding the envelope like a live grenade. The speeches were predictably boring. Marisol took the stage in a silver dress that cost more than most people's cars, thanking sponsors and clients while pretending her world wasn't crumbling. She was a good actress. I had to give her that. When she finished, Serena approached the stage and handed her the envelope. I watched from across the room as Marisol opened it, her face cycling through confusion, shock, and finally, pure terror. She looked up, scanning the crowd until she found me. Our eyes met across the ballroom, and I raised my champagne flute in a mock toast. Then I left, walking out into the night while my wife's perfectly constructed life imploded behind me. The next morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. Serena's voice was raw with exhaustion and fury. "What the hell did you give her? She's been crying all night. Won't talk to anyone, won't leave her apartment. Rafael's been calling nonstop, but she won't answer." "Just some truth," I replied, making coffee in my empty kitchen. Marisol hadn't come home. Something she's been in short supply of lately. This isn't a game, Gideon. You're destroying people's lives. No, Serena. I'm revealing the lives they've already destroyed. There's a difference. She hung up on me. By noon, the story had leaked. Someone, definitely not me, though I had my suspicions about who, had sent the photos and documents to CityBuzz, the local gossip blog that fed on scandal. The headline read, "Local influencer's marriage meltdown. Cheating wife, broke boyfriend, and a lawyer's revenge." The photos were damning. Marisol and Raphael at expensive restaurants, her credit card on the table, hotel receipts in her name, screenshots of text messages where she mocked me to her friends while planning dates with her lover. My phone started ringing immediately. Reporters, colleagues, friends who wanted the inside story. I ignored them all and went to the gym. Coach Biggs was waiting for me with fresh tape and a knowing look. "Saw the news," he said simply. "Did you?" "Hell of a thing, having your personal life splashed across the internet. How you holding up?" I started wrapping my hands, focusing on the familiar ritual. "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually." "Revenge is a funny thing," he mused, watching me work the heavy bag. "Feels good at first, like scratching an itch, but it's got a way of eating at a man if he's not careful. Some itches need scratching." He nodded slowly. "Just make sure you know when to stop before it goes too far." That evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Tom Mitchell and Jennifer Walsh, two people I'd once considered my closest friends. Tom was a fellow lawyer at a competing firm. Jennifer worked in marketing and had introduced me to Marisol 8 years ago. They'd been regulars at our dinner parties, weekend barbecues, and holiday celebrations. Now they looked at me like I was something they'd scraped off their shoes. "We need to talk," Tom said, pushing past me into the condo without invitation. "By all means, come in," I said sarcastically, closing the door behind them. Jennifer was already pacing in my living room, her face flushed with anger. "How could you do this to her? To all of us?" "Do what exactly?" "Don't play dumb, Gideon," Tom snapped. "The photos, the blog posts, the public humiliation. Marisol's career is ruined. Her agency's lost 3 more clients since this morning. You've destroyed her life over what? A marriage that was already over." I poured myself a scotch, not offering them anything. "Interesting perspective. Tell me, how long have you known about the affair?" They exchanged glances. Jennifer looked away first. "That's what I thought," I continued. "My wife's been sleeping with another man for months, spending my money on their dates, mocking me to anyone who'll listen, and you're upset that I exposed it? Where was this righteous indignation when she was humiliating me?" "That's different," Jennifer protested weakly. "How?" "Because," she struggled for words, "because you're supposed to be better than this. You're supposed to handle things privately, like an adult." I laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Like an adult? You mean like pretending everything's fine while my wife parades her boyfriend around town? Like playing the oblivious husband while everyone whispers behind my back? That kind of adult behavior?" Tom stepped forward, his face red with anger. "You vindictive snake. Marisol made a mistake, sure, but she didn't deserve this. No one deserves to have their private life destroyed for public entertainment." "Private life?" I set down my scotch, feeling the familiar rage building in my chest. "There was nothing private about it, Tom. She was broadcasting her contempt for me to anyone who'd listen. The only thing private was my knowledge of it." "You could have handled this differently," Jennifer said. "Divorce proceedings, mediation, counseling, civilized solutions." "Civilized?" I stepped closer to them, and they both took an involuntary step back. Was it civilized when she used my credit card to pay for hotel rooms where she slept with her boyfriend? Was it civilized when she told her friends I was adequate in every way while they laughed at my expense? Was it civilized when she made me the joke of every social gathering in the city? "That's not," Tom started. "That's exactly what it was," I cut him off. "And you both knew it. You all knew it. My wife's affair was the worst kept secret in our social circle, and every single one of you decided I was better off not knowing. You made that choice for me." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "We were trying to protect you." "Bullshit. You were protecting yourselves. It was easier to let me be the fool than to deal with the messy reality of taking sides. Well, congratulations. Now you don't have to choose. You've made it very clear where your loyalties lie." Tom's jaw clenched. "So that's it? Friendship over because we didn't want to see you get hurt?" "Friendship was over the moment you decided my wife's feelings mattered more than my right to know the truth. Everything since then has just been theater." They stood there for a moment, realizing they'd lost the moral high ground somewhere in the conversation. Jennifer wiped her eyes, smearing her makeup. "You've changed, Gideon," she said quietly. "This isn't who you used to be." "You're right," I agreed. I used to be naive enough to trust people who called themselves my friends. I used to believe that loyalty and honesty mattered. I used to think that good people did good things and bad people got what they deserved. Turns out I was wrong about all of it. Tom headed for the door, Jennifer following. He paused at the threshold, looking back at me with something like pity. "I hope this was worth it," he said. "I hope destroying everyone around you was worth becoming someone no one can stand to be around." "It was," I replied without hesitation. "Every goddamn second of it." They left, and I was alone again. But for the first time in months, I felt like myself. 3 days later, Bobby walked into my office with the expression I'd never seen before. Excitement mixed with something like fear. "I found something," she said, closing the door behind her. "About Serena Tran. You're not going to believe this." She spread a series of documents across my desk. Financial records, email printouts, phone logs, and what looked like surveillance photos. "I started digging into her background after you mentioned her the other day. Something about her story didn't add up. Perfect best friend, loyal business partner, always there to fix everyone's problems. People like that don't exist without a reason." I leaned forward, studying the papers. "What did you find?" "Serena Tran isn't just Marisol's business partner. She's been systematically destroying your wife's life for the past year. The lost clients? Serena's been sabotaging presentations and leaking confidential information to competitors. The financial problems at the agency? She's been skimming from accounts and blaming it on Marisol's distracted management. Why? Revenge. 5 years ago, Marisol stole a major client from Serena's previous agency. Cost her a promotion and eventually her job. Serena's been planning this ever since. She engineered the entire affair between Marisol and Raphael, fed them both information about your schedule, your finances, even suggested the restaurants where they'd be photographed together. The pieces fell into place like dominoes. She wanted me to find out. More than that. She wanted you to destroy Marisol publicly so she wouldn't have to get her hands dirty. You've been her weapon this entire time." I stared at the evidence, feeling a mixture of admiration and fury. Serena had played us all like chess pieces, manipulating 3 lives to satisfy a 5-year-old grudge. It was brilliant, ruthless, and completely sociopathic. "There's more," Bobby continued. "The photos that leaked to City Buzz? They came from Serena's phone. She's been documenting everything, building a case file to destroy Marisol's reputation. The affair was just the beginning." I leaned back in my chair, processing the implications. My wife was a cheating, manipulative narcissist, but she was also a victim. Raphael was a fraud and a fool, but he'd been manipulated too, and I'd been the unwitting executioner in Serena's elaborate revenge plot. "What do you want to do with this?" Bobby asked. I gathered the documents, sliding them into a manila envelope. "Yeah, I want to finish what she started." That night, I called Serena and arranged to meet her at Cafe Luna, a quiet coffee shop downtown where we could talk privately. She arrived looking haggard, stress lines etched around her eyes, and her usually perfect appearance slightly disheveled. "Thank you for coming," I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. She sat down warily. "What do you want, Gideon?" "To offer you a deal." I slid the envelope across the table. "Open it." She hesitated, then pulled out the documents Bobby had compiled. Her face went white as she realized what she was looking at. "Where did you get these?" "Does it matter? The question is, what happens next?" I leaned forward, keeping my voice low and conversational. "You've been planning this for 5 years. Marisol stole your client, ruined your career, and you decided to return the favor. I have to admit, it's impressive work. Orchestrating an affair, manipulating 3 people into destroying each other, staying clean while everyone else gets dirty. Very professional." Serena's hands trembled slightly as she set down the papers. "What do you want?" "I want to make you a proposition. You've already won. Marisol's career is ruined. Her reputation is destroyed, and her marriage is over. Raphael's broke and humiliated. Your revenge is complete. Now you can walk away clean, or we can escalate this to a level that destroys everyone, including you." "You're threatening me." "I'm offering you a choice. Take the win and disappear, or face the consequences of what you've done. Because if these documents become public, if people learn that you manipulated an affair to destroy your business partner, your career in this city is over. No one will ever trust you again." She stared at me for a long moment, calculating odds and options. "And if I walk away?" "Then this stays between us. You dissolve the partnership with Marisol, leave town, start over somewhere else. Clean slate." "What about Marisol?" "Marisol made her own choices. She chose to cheat, to humiliate me, to destroy our marriage. The fact that you encouraged those choices doesn't absolve her of responsibility. She gets what she deserves. Serena gathered the documents, sliding them back into the envelope. You're not what I expected. Neither are you. I thought you were just the loyal best friend. Turns out you're the puppet master. I can respect that, even if I don't like it. She stood up, envelope in hand. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You got your revenge, I got mine. We're even now. She walked away without another word, leaving me alone with my coffee and the satisfaction of a job well done. The final act took place 3 weeks later at the Meridian Center's annual charity gala, the same venue where I'd humiliated Raphael in the boxing ring months earlier. This time, the event was black tie formal. 500 of the city's elite gathered to celebrate their own generosity while networking and gossiping. I arrived alone, wearing my best tuxedo and a predator's smile. Marisol was there, of course, trying to salvage what remained of her professional reputation. She looked beautiful and desperate, working the room with the intensity of someone fighting for her life. Raphael was notably absent. Word was he'd left town after his startup finally collapsed, taking a job with a tech company in Austin. Probably for the best. The man had no stomach for real consequences. Serena was also gone. She'd dissolved her partnership with Marisol and moved to Seattle, citing new opportunities. In a carefully worded press release. Smart woman, she knew when to cut her losses. I found Marisol near the silent auction tables, surrounded by a small group of potential clients. She was pitching them on some new marketing strategy, her voice bright and confident despite the circumstances. Gideon, she said when she saw me, her smile never wavering. I didn't expect to see you here. Wouldn't miss it, I replied, nodding politely to her companions. Could I borrow my wife for a moment? Business to discuss. They drifted away, sensing the tension. Marisol's smile faded as soon as we were alone. What do you want? She asked quietly. To give you something. I reached into my jacket and withdrew a final envelope, this one sealed with red wax. Consider it a divorce present. She stared at the envelope like it might bite her. What's in it? The truth. About Serena, about Raphael, about everything that's happened in the past year. Turns out you weren't the only one being manipulated. She opened the envelope with shaking hands, scanning the documents inside. Her face went through a series of expressions: confusion, realization, and finally, pure rage. She set me up, Marisol whispered. She planned all of this. From the beginning, the affair, the humiliation, the public exposure, you were just a pawn in her revenge plot. And you knew? I figured it out. Too late to change anything, but early enough to give you the choice I never had. Marisol looked up at me, tears in her eyes. What choice? You can walk away now, quietly, and rebuild your life somewhere else. Or you can stay and fight, knowing that everyone in this room will learn exactly how you destroyed our marriage, regardless of who was pulling the strings. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with 8 years ago. Beautiful, intelligent, ambitious, and completely ruthless when cornered. You win, she said finally. Is that what you want to hear? I want to hear that you understand the consequences of your choices. Serena may have manipulated you, but she didn't force you to cheat. She didn't force you to humiliate me. She didn't force you to spend my money on dates with another man. Those were your decisions. I know. She folded the documents, sliding them back into the envelope. I'm sorry, Gideon, for all of it. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix anything. She nodded, understanding. What happens now? Now you leave. Tonight. This city, this life, this version of yourself that thought consequences were for other people. You disappear, and you never contact me again. And if I don't? I smiled, and she took an involuntary step back. Then tomorrow morning, every person in this room receives a detailed account of your affair, complete with photos, financial records, and text message screenshots. Your remaining clients will drop you, your professional reputation will be destroyed, and you'll spend the rest of your life explaining why no one should ever trust you with anything important. She looked around the ballroom, at the people who represented her last chance at professional survival, then back at me. You've changed, she said quietly. This isn't who you used to be. You're right. I used to be the kind of man who could be betrayed and humiliated without consequences. I used to believe that good people deserved good things, and that loyalty and trust mattered. You taught me how naive that was. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did, and now we both have to live with the consequences. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Goodbye, Gideon. Goodbye, Marisol. I watched her walk away, moving through the crowd toward the exit. She stopped once to look back at me, and I raised my champagne flute in a final toast. Then she was gone, disappearing into the night like a ghost from my former life. I finished my champagne and left the gala, walking out into the cool evening air. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "It's done. Thank you." Marisol letting me know she understood the terms of our agreement. I deleted the message and walked home to my empty condo, finally free of the weight I'd been carrying for months. The marriage was over, the betrayal was avenged, and everyone involved had learned the cost of their choices. Justice, it turned out, was a dish best served with evidence, patience, and the willingness to become someone your enemies would never expect. In the end, that was enough.